I dropped my keys. The clatter hit the tile harder than I meant. My shoulder screamed from lifting a patient alone at hour 24. My knees burned. I wanted to shower a piece of toast and 10 minutes to breathe. Instead, there it was, a second fridge. Silver. New. Plugged in beside mine, humming like it belonged. Callie stood next to it, arms folded. Mateo leaned on the counter, eyes low. She didn't wait. That one's ours. Yours is that old one, she said, pointing with her chin. We'll keep our stuff separate now. It's just easier. I looked at Mateo. He glanced at the floor. I opened the old fridge. Every item I'd bought, yogurt, eggs, orange juice, was marked. Neon pink labels. A marker scrawl C. Even the coffee tin had tape across the lid. Callie's, do not touch. I didn't say anything. I walked past them, poured water into the kettle, and set it to boil. Behind me, she kept going. We're trying to create healthy boundaries, she said. You know, space, food costs, that kind of thing. Mateo finally spoke. We figured this is fair. Fair. I let the words sit, my back to them, my hands trembling slightly on the mug handle. 3 years ago, they moved in for 6 months, back when Mateo was between jobs, back when Callie just needed time to finish her certification. I'd emptied the guest room, given them the good sheets, cleared half the pantry. Now I was being told to buy my own groceries. In the house, I paid off a loan. The kettle clicked. I poured water into the mug, sat at the corner table. My corner. Callie leaned over and opened their fridge, moved things around like she'd done it forever. We labeled everything to avoid confusion. We'll reimburse you for the last shopping trip. Eventually. I nodded once. I didn't trust my voice to hold. She looked satisfied, like we'd reached agreement. Mateo still hadn't looked me in the eye. The coffee burned my tongue. I didn't flinch. Upstairs, the baby started crying. Callie sighed. He's been fussy all day. She walked off, fridge still open. Mateo followed after, but stopped at the stairs. We're not trying to be mean, Mom. It's just... He trailed off. It's easier this way. I didn't answer. He stood there another second, then left. The kitchen door creaked shut. I sat alone, steam rising from my mug. The hum of 2 fridges filled the silence. Across the room, a bright label on a stick of butter caught the light. I reached for my notebook, flipped past the budget pages, and wrote one line, May 12th. New fridge. Labeled food. Told to buy my own. I closed it, slipped it back into the drawer beneath the microwave. Then I reached into the top cabinet, mine still, and pulled down the small envelope I hadn't touched in years. Inside the house deed. My name only. Just my name. I yanked open the bathroom cabinet. Toothpaste, shampoo, mouthwash. All lined up like soldiers and tagged. Bright yellow stickers, thick marker lines, not yours. Use your own. Callie plus. Mateo. Even the soap. I stared. No sound, just the fan humming above me. Then I opened the drawer. A roll of toilet paper sat alone. Same sticker. For Mateo plus Callie. I shut the drawer. Walked back to my room. Shut the door with a quiet click. The corner of my old quilt curled up from the bed. I sat down. Looked at my hands. I didn't recognize them anymore, thin-knuckled skin worn from sanitizer and latex gloves. 35 years of nursing. And now I couldn't use the soap without permission. Downstairs, Callie laughed. Later at dinner, she set the table 3 plates, but pushed mine to the far corner. Mateo was already seated, phone in hand. I sat down without a word. There were separate salt and pepper shakers on their side of the table. I reached for the butter. Wait, Callie said. That's ours. Sorry, I'll grab you yours. She stood, walked to the fridge, opened the old one, mine, and handed me a smaller dish. We just thought, it's cleaner this way. No offense. Mateo still hadn't looked up. Callie kept going. You know boundaries are healthy. It's not personal, just structure. We're all adults. She smiled like she'd read it off a podcast. I chewed slowly, bread dry, my throat tight. Besides, she added, we don't want to feel like we're tiptoeing in our own home. Our own home. I looked down at the plate. The silverware was mismatched. My old set, the one from before Mateo was born, wasn't in the drawer anymore. Replaced by cheap bulk pack cutlery, all marked. After dinner, I cleared my plate, washed it alone. When I opened the drying rack, I found my mug shoved in the back handle, cracked. The one with my name on it. The one Mateo gave me on my 50th. I rinsed it, dried it, tucked it in my nightstand drawer. In the morning, I skipped breakfast, waited until they'd left, then moved through the house. Drawer by drawer, shelf by shelf, stickers on kitchen towels, Tupperware, even the olive oil. I walked back to my room, pulled out my notebook, and added new entries. Yellow tags on soap paper dishes. Not yours on toilet paper. Separate salt. Separate butter. We don't want to tiptoe in our own home. I paused, then wrote one last line I didn't agree to give it to them. I closed the notebook, slid it back into the drawer. Then I opened the closet, reached for the step stool, and climbed up. There above the shelf was the small fireproof box my husband once called the backup plan. Still locked, still heavy. I scrubbed the stove. Steam rose around my hands, but I didn't stop. I needed to move to do something, while the voices downstairs grew louder. Laughter, silverware clinking, wine bottles uncorked. 15 minutes ago, I didn't even know they were having guests. They hadn't told me. I opened the kitchen window, let the air cut through the noise. Then I heard it. A woman's voice. Your place is lovely. Who's that upstairs? Callie answered. Casual. Oh, that's Mateo's mom. She lives here, kind of. Pause. Then, she mostly keeps to herself. It's easier that way. Another voice. A man this time. Is she your maid? Callie laughed. Kind of. I froze. The sponge slipped from my hand into the sink. Water splashed onto my shirt, but I didn't move. Just stood there letting the cold seep in. They clinked glasses. Someone toasted. The laughter picked up again. I turned off the faucet, walked back to my room, shut the door, and sat on the edge of the bed. For 10 minutes, I stared at the floor. Then I changed shirts, fixed my hair, and went downstairs. No one noticed. The dining table was full. Callie sat at the head, Mateo beside her. 8 seats. None for me. The food smelled like my recipes. Lemon rosemary chicken roasted potatoes. Red wine vinaigrette on the salad. She'd copied every dish from the old recipe box in the pantry. I stepped into the hallway just enough to be seen. Mateo looked up. His eyes met mine. Brief, hollow. Then he looked away. Callie didn't even turn. Someone asked about the house. Callie smiled. We're thinking of updating it. Open concept. Maybe redo the kitchen. A woman gestured toward the hallway. Will that room be part of it? Callie tilted her wine. Hopefully. I walked back to the kitchen. Boiled water. Poured it over an old tea bag. Sat by the window just outside their sight and drank it cold. When the doorbell rang, Inez stood. Callie called out, Mom, can you get that? I opened the door. It was the neighbor, Gloria, holding a bottle of red. Oh, hi, didn't know you had people over, she said. I smiled gently. Neither did I. She blinked. Looked past me into the house. Callie invited me through Facebook. Said it was just family and friends. I stepped aside. They're all in the dining room. Gloria paused. Aren't you? I'm just the maid, I said. She flinched. I walked away before she could reply. Back in my room, I opened the notebook again. Wrote, dinner party. Not invited. Kind of maid. Callie planning renovations my room included. Mateo looked away. Didn't speak. I closed it. Then I pulled the fireproof box from the closet shelf, set it on the desk, and opened it with the key. Inside, the original deed. My husband's letters. The savings bond he left in my name. And under all that, a business card with embossed letters. Alan Kovacheski. I picked it up, turned it over. His cell was written in pen, clean and steady. I opened the drawer beneath the desk and pulled out the green accordion folder. Dust coated the top. I hadn't touched it since before Mateo moved in. The elastic snapped when I stretched it. Inside files, letters, bank slips. Carbon copies. I flipped past water bills, insurance forms, old grocery receipts. Then I found them lined in faded blue ink. 7 checks. All made out to Mateo Calderon. 3,000. 5,000. 12. Each one with a note in the memo line, rent catch-up, car loan, credit consolidation, late tuition, the total 72,000. I stacked them. Checked the dates. Spanned 4 years. Before Callie. Before the wedding. Before he promised he'd pay me back as soon as things stabilized. Things never stabilized. He'd moved into my home with that same soft voice saying he needed a few months to get back on track. That was 3 years ago. Now I was eating dry toast and cold tea while he poured wine for strangers and smiled like he owned the place. I ran my finger down the line of zeros. He never said thank you. Not once. No mention. No acknowledgement. Not even a joke. Like those checks never existed. I stood, walked down the hall to the linen closet, pulled out an envelope, and slid the copies inside. Then I tucked it under the mattress behind the left leg. Back at the desk, I flipped to the back of the notebook. 7 checks total $72K, memo debt help, no repayment. No mention. Hidden under mattress. The sound of the garage door hummed through the walls. Mateo's car. I heard voices, doors opening, grocery bags shuffling. I stayed in my room. Callie's voice cut through. Did you get oat milk? Not regular. Oat. Mateo said something low, muffled. She snapped again. Because if I drink regular by mistake again, I swear to God. Their bedroom door slammed. I sat down. Opened the fireproof box again. Moved past the deed, the lawyer's card, the bond. At the bottom, I found what I'd been avoiding, a hospital bill, dated 6 months after my husband died. Mateo had called crying that day. Said he didn't want his credit ruined. I paid it without asking questions. $17,640. That one wasn't even a check. Just a wire transfer from my savings. I reached for a new sheet. Wrote it down. $17,640. Hospital debt. Paid in full. I stopped. Then underlined it. I closed the folder. Turned off the lamp. Slipped the card from Alan back into my pocket. I didn't call him yet, but I left the phone on the nightstand. Charged. Ringer on. I pulled the nightstand forward. Dust rained down. My rag slipped into the crack and scraped against metal. I reached in fingers, brushing something thin. A small key slid out, clinking against the wood. I froze. I knew that key. My husband had kept it on a chain. He called it the lockbox backup. After he died, I thought it was gone. I sat on the bed, turning it in my hand, the brass warm from my skin. My chest tightened. The box was in the closet. Fireproof. Heavy. I pulled it down, knees braced. The lock clicked open on the second turn. Inside, the smell of paper and dust. First layer, the deed. My name only. Black ink, clean and final. Calderon property dated 15 years ago. No co-signers, no transfers, no disputes. My house. Mine alone. Beneath it, another folder. A notarized promissory note. Mateo's handwriting sprawled across the page. He'd borrowed $50,000. He'd signed, dated, stamped in front of a notary. Promised repayment within 5 years. That was 12 years ago. I swallowed hard. Ran my finger along his signature. He couldn't deny it. Couldn't laugh it off. It was there, sealed legal. At the bottom of the box, a single card, embossed, heavy stock, letters deep. Alan Kovach, attorney at law. In pen below the print, a cell number. I stared at it, remembered his voice at my husband's funeral, calm, steady, telling me to call if I ever needed guidance. I hadn't, until now. I set the documents on the desk, stacked them neatly. My hand lingered on the deed. Callie's voice echoed faintly from downstairs, sharp and bossy, directing Mateo to carry bags, to wash fruit, to rearrange the fridge. Their fridge. I folded the papers back into the folder, slid the card into my pocket. For the first time in months, my shoulders lowered. My breath came steady. They thought I was cornered. They thought I was quiet because I was powerless. But the house was mine. The debt was signed. The lawyer was real. I closed the box, turned the key, and tucked it back into the closet. Then I picked up the phone. I wiped the counter, same as every morning. Callie's phone buzzed. Left face up, unlocked beside the fruit bowl. She was upstairs with the baby. Mateo was in the garage fixing something he'd never finish. The screen lit again. A group name caught my eye. Family Core. No moms? I hesitated, then tapped it. The last message blinked blue. From Mateo's sister, Lara. Assisted living isn't cruel. Some people thrive there. Below it, his brother Ben. Imagine the money we'd save on groceries alone. I kept scrolling. Callie. She won't leave unless we make her feel like a burden. Lara. That part's already working. Ben. Just don't let her guilt Mateo again. She's good at that. Callie. Already warned him. He's on board. Lara. Even after the checks she gave him, Callie old debt. Doesn't count anymore. Callie. Besides, I'm the one who's actually helping him grow. I stepped back. The rag dropped to the floor. Old debt. I locked the screen, put the phone exactly where I found it, walked into the hallway, shut the door to my room. My chest burned, not loud, not sharp, just steady. I sat down, opened the notebook, turned to a blank page. Group chat. Family Core, no moms, messages about assisted living. Callie. Make her feel like a burden. Mateo is on board. I underlined it twice. Then opened the drawer, pulled out Mateo's signed note, read it again. Old debt. Doesn't count anymore. I knew where every cent had gone. Knew what I'd sold, canceled, paused to make room for his second chances. The car I'd kept another year. The vacation I never took. The emergency dental I pushed back. But to them, it was erased. I closed the file, stood, and opened the window. The wind caught the curtains. The sun hit the corner of the backyard. Mateo was dragging the trash bins to the curb. I watched him move like nothing had shifted. Like he wasn't trading me in behind my back. He looked up, saw me, gave a short nod. I nodded back. Nothing more. That night, after they went to bed, I boiled water. Sat at the table. Poured it over coffee grounds I bought myself. Then I opened the drawer. Found the envelope with the check copies and added a sticky note, just in case memory fades. I sealed it. Slid it behind the spice rack. Not hidden. Just not obvious. I stopped mid-step. Callie's voice drifted from the living room. She was on speakerphone, tone-clipped, cheerful. No, it's a great neighborhood. Schools are decent. Close to everything. I stayed in the hallway, just behind the corner. Silent. A man's voice replied. Calm. Professional. And your husband's name is the only one on the deed. She laughed. Not yet. But soon. We're working on that. My hands curled. The realtor asked, How old is the house? About 30 years, she said. But we're planning updates. Once it's under our name, we'll gut the kitchen, maybe open the layout. She lowered her voice, but not enough. His mom lives here technically, but she won't be a problem. The words landed like slaps. She's old school, stuck in her ways. We'll help her transition when the time comes. Transition. The realtor said something about paperwork. Timeline. Pre-approval. Callie ended the call with a chirpy, "Talk soon," then silence. I stepped back, walked to my room, closed the door softly, sat down, breathed once, twice, deep. They were planning to sell my house, remodel my life, rename everything. I reached for the notebook, wrote, "Call with realtor. We're thinking of selling. His name will be on soon. Plans to gut kitchen. She won't be a problem." I pressed the pen harder than I meant to. The page tore. I flipped to the folder, pulled out the deed again. My name, only mine. I lifted the envelope of checks, added the promissory note behind them, then reached for the phone, dialed the number on the card. He picked up on the second ring. Alan Kovac. I spoke without shaking. "It's Inez Calderon. My husband was Roger." He paused, then warmth returned to his voice. "Of course. Inez. I remember. I need to talk to you," I said. "Tomorrow," he offered. "I'd prefer today." A beat of silence. Then, "Come in at 4. Bring everything." I said thank you. Hung up. Then stood, grabbed my coat, and packed the folder. I parked 2 blocks away, walked the rest. I didn't want them asking where I'd been. Alan's office sat above a tax firm tucked between a bakery and a shuttered antique shop. Same wood door, same brass plate. Nothing changed in 20 years. He opened it himself. "Inez," he said, smiling like we'd just spoken last week. "Come in." His office was quiet. No receptionist. Just the hum of a desk fan and a worn leather chair that creaked when I sat. I handed him the folder, said nothing as he flipped through. The deed, the checks, the promissory note, the group chat messages I'd printed from Callie's phone. He read, paused, took off his glasses. "You've kept good records." I nodded once. He tapped the deed. "They can't sell what they don't own?" "They think they can," I said. He didn't smile. "They'd have to forge your signature or convince a court you're unfit. Neither will happen." He held up the loan agreement. "And this fully enforceable. Mateo signed. Notarized. No expiration." I stayed quiet. Alan leaned forward. "You want to evict them?" "Eventually," I said. Discreetly. "For now." He nodded. "We'll start with a cease and desist. No listing, no renovations, no transfers. I'll file it myself." Quietly, he flipped a legal pad, wrote names, dates, my address. Then if they push, we escalate. I looked out the window. Cars passed. A boy walked a dog. "I don't want to humiliate them," I said. "Not yet." Alan didn't respond right away, just looked at me, then back at the documents. "You've got the leverage. No rush." I stood, buttoned my coat. He handed back a copy of the loan agreement now with a legal stamp. "If he challenges, you show him this." I took it, slid it into my purse. "I'll be in touch," he said. And Inez, I turned. "You're not stuck. You're in control." I nodded, stepped into the hallway, walked back to the car without looking over my shoulder, drove home slow, parked where I always did. The house looked the same, but I didn't. Inside, I put the stamped copy in the fireproof box, locked it, then poured myself a cup of coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and waited for the next move. I slid the small box across the counter. Cash only. The clerk didn't ask questions, just handed me the receipt and bagged it. A black digital recorder no bigger than my thumb. Simple buttons. Long battery life. I drove home, slow lights flashing by. The bag sat on the passenger seat, heavier than it should have been. Upstairs, I shut my door, tore the plastic-pressed power. The red light blinked once steady. I tested it. My voice filled the playback, thin but clear. It worked. That night, I set it under the fruit bowl on the kitchen table. Sat with my mug reading old notes, pretending not to listen. Callie came down first. She opened their fridge, slammed the door. Why is she always in here? Doesn't she get we need privacy? Mateo's voice followed, tired. She's just drinking coffee. Callie's laugh was sharp. Coffee she didn't buy. She just takes, like always. The recorder caught every word. When they left, I retrieved it, saved the file, labeled it May 22-7, 14 a.m., slipped the device into my pocket. The next day, I left it under the couch cushion, sat upstairs while they argued below. Callie, she's dead weight. I'm not raising a kid and a grandma. Mateo, don't call her that. Callie, then make her leave. Click. Saved. May 23, 9:42 p.m. The day after I placed it behind the microwave, pretended to scrub counters while they whispered. Callie, we'll sell faster once her name's off. Just push her. She's fragile. Mateo. She'll fight. Callie, not if she feels unwanted enough. Click. Saved. May 24, 6:03 p.m. Each file numbered, tagged hidden in the fireproof box with the deed and promissory note. I didn't speak. Didn't confront. Just collected. By the end of the week, I had hours Callie mocking me, Mateo defending weakly, then agreeing to her demands. I listened back once. Only once. The sound of their voices, low and cruel, was enough to remind me why silence mattered more than shouting. I stacked the recorder on my nightstand, plugged it in to charge. My hands didn't shake anymore. Tomorrow I'd move it again, and the day after, and the day after that, until the box held enough proof to bury their lies. When I finally shut off the light, the recorder's red glow lit the room faint, steady. I lay down, eyes open, waiting for the moment they gave me something bigger. I signed fast. Black ink. Firm hand. No hesitation. Alan slid the final page forward. That's it, he said. The trust is now active. You're sole trustee. No one touches the house without your signature. I nodded. Not even my son. Especially not your son. The documents were thick, bound, notarized twice. Everything done by the book. He tucked a certified copy into a sealed envelope and handed it to me. Keep this somewhere safe. I'll retain the originals. I held the envelope tight. Felt its weight in my hands. Not just paper. Protection. Alan leaned back. Revocable living trust. You control it entirely. If they try to list the house, the sale won't go through. Title search will stop them cold. I breathed once. No smile. Just quiet understanding. They won't know I asked. Not unless you tell them. And even then doesn't matter. I left his office without looking back. Stopped at the UPS store. Rented a private mailbox. New key, new address. Quiet. Back home, I slipped the envelope beneath the bottom drawer of my dresser, taped flat to the wood. That night, Callie hovered in the kitchen. Mateo stirred pasta with one hand, phone in the other. She spoke low. Did the bank respond about the refinance? He muttered. They're still reviewing. She sighed. It's just paperwork. If your name's on the deed, we should be good. My back was to them. Washing dishes slow. Mateo's voice dropped. It's not on yet. I still have to talk to her. Callie scoffed. You said she was soft? She'll cave? I dried my hands. Reached for the drawer with the coffee filters. My fingers brushed the recorder tucked inside. I let it run. That night, I added a new label to the file June 2nd. Refinance plan still unaware. Then I sat at my desk. Opened the notebook. Wrote trust active. I'm sole trustee. Mailbox rented. Callie thinks refinance is coming. Mateo hasn't asked. Still assumes. I closed the notebook. In their eyes, I was still just furniture in the corner. But the walls they stood in. The floors beneath them. They no longer owned a single inch. I cracked the eggs. Dropped them into the pan. Let them sizzle. Bread in the toaster. Butter on the counter. Coffee brewed strong, plain the way I've made it every morning for 30 years. The recorder blinked under the fruit bowl. Red, quiet, steady. Callie walked in, tied her robe tighter, and made a face. "Did you burn the coffee again?" I didn't answer. Poured myself a cup. Set it on the far end of the table. She leaned over the sink, sniffed the air like it offended her. "It's too bitter." "Can't you measure?" I buttered toast. Kept my hands moving. No reply. She sat, pulled out her phone. Scrolled. "We're switching to oat milk. Stop buying that cheap stuff. It ruins everything." I drank. Looked out the window. Mateo entered, rubbing his neck. "Smells strong in here," he mumbled. "Like ashtray coffee." She smirked. I told her. He turned to me. "Can't you just stay in your room during mornings? Give us space." My hands didn't stop. Plate to table. Napkin beside it. "She's up at dawn," Callie said. Clanging pans. Always moving things around. I cut a banana, placed it in a bowl. Mateo sat. "Seriously, Mom, can't you just chill upstairs just until we're out for the day?" They ate. I poured more coffee. Didn't cry. Didn't speak. I just let the recorder capture every word. After they left, I retrieved it, saved the file, labeled it June 3rd, told to stay in room, ashtray coffee. Unwanted mornings, I placed it with the others. Then wiped the counter clean, moved their dishes to the sink, opened the notebook, wrote the words down exactly, word for word. I stared at the page. They didn't want me in my own kitchen, in the house I paid for, in the life I built. But the deed was mine. The trust was signed. The recordings were growing. They were writing their own ending, one insult at a time. And I was just setting the table. I opened the fridge, moved her cake box aside, reached for the eggs. Callie walked in, phone pressed to her ear, grinning. "Yes, Saturday. 3 o'clock. No gifts, just presents." She saw me and lowered her voice. "Just close family." I cracked the egg too hard. Shell fragments floated. I fished them out. She ended the call, dropped onto the stool, and started tapping out a message. I poured coffee, sat across from her. "What's Saturday?" She didn't look up. Birthday thing, just a little gathering. For who, she blinked. Mine. I nodded once. I didn't see an invite. Her fingers froze. Then she smiled. "Oh, it's for close family only." She said it slow, like I didn't speak English. I held her gaze. Didn't move. She shrugged. "It's nothing formal. Mateo's siblings, my parents, a few cousins, people I've known forever." I drank my coffee. She stood, rummaged through drawers, pulled out colored napkins and gold foil balloons. "I'll need the dining table cleared by Friday night. Also, don't worry about food. We've got catering." "Will I be helping with setup?" I asked. She laughed. No. It's all covered. You can have the night off." I didn't respond. She gathered her things and breezed out of the kitchen. I waited until the front door shut. Then I walked into the garage, opened the second pantry where we stored extra decorations. In the back, behind old paper plates and light bulbs, was a labeled box, Mateo. Graduation party. Taped to it was a card. My handwriting. "Congratulations. We're proud of you. Love, Mom." Inside receipts for food, drinks, folding chairs, a rented tent. All paid by me. I closed the box, went back inside, pulled out my notebook. Callie's birthday party, Saturday at 3 p.m. Not invited, close family only. My house, my table, my kitchen. I bought her last birthday cake. $48.99. Didn't finish it. I shut the book, walked to my room, opened the closet, pulled out the lockbox, checked the envelope. Recorder files labeled and tucked tight. Trust documents safe. Alan's card still inside. They thought I wasn't family, but the house said otherwise. I offered to babysit. Callie blinked, surprised. "You sure?" I nodded. "You'll be busy with the party. I'll keep him out of the way." She smiled like she'd won something. Perfect. Mateo looked relieved. Thanks, Mom. You're really adjusting. I smiled back. Just enough. That afternoon, I took the baby to the park, pushed the stroller slow, picked up extra diapers, paid for lunch without asking. When I got home, I folded the towels, cleared the sink, didn't speak unless spoken to. They noticed. Mateo, especially. He passed me a bowl of grapes while watching TV. It's nice he said you being more relaxed lately. I nodded. Callie left her shoes in the middle of the floor. I picked them up. She tossed laundry on the table. I folded it. Neither said thank you, but both started talking louder, assuming I was always listening, always nearby, always obedient. I kept the recorder tucked in my apron pocket, switched out every 2 hours. Files labeled, transferred, hidden. They said things they thought I didn't mind hearing. They were wrong. At dinner, I asked if they needed help with the party setup. Callie waved a hand. We've got it. You just enjoy your weekend. I nodded. Of course. She turned to Mateo. See? She gets it now. He smiled. Told you. She just needed time. They kissed in front of me like a show, like they were normal, like they weren't squatting in a house that wasn't theirs. I cleared the plates, washed, dried, stacked, then sat at the kitchen table, coffee in hand, notebook open. They think I've adjusted. She gets it now. She's quiet. Babysitting, see distraction, smiles, see disguise. I closed the book, went to my room, checked the lockbox, nothing missing, nothing disturbed, everything in its place except me. I handed Callie a dish towel. She waved me off. Go rest, Inez. Seriously, just enjoy the noise from a distance. I stepped back. Let her take over the kitchen. The guests arrived, loud and fast, heels on tile, perfume, in clouds, laughter bouncing off every surface of my house. I stayed near the hallway, quiet, watchful. Voices drifted. You look amazing, Callie. Who catered this? The balloons are so tasteful. Then one voice cut through. Mrs. Varnes from next door. Soft cardigan's stronger memory. She tapped my arm, smiling. I just had to thank you. It's lovely what you're doing for them. I blinked. I'm sorry. She leaned closer. You know the party, the catering, the rentals, the decorations. Mateo said it's all covered thanks to you. Very generous. My stomach dropped. She moved on, clutching her wine glass, already smiling at someone else. I turned toward the kitchen. Mateo stood near the sink, chewing a toothpick. I walked over. No smile. What did you tell Mrs. Varnes? I asked. He paused. What she thinks I'm paying for this. He swallowed hard, glanced toward Callie. You weren't supposed to hear that. I didn't answer. He stepped closer. Look the cards in your name, the joint account. I meant to tell you. You used it without asking. It's not like that. It's exactly like that. Callie turned from the sink, wiping her hands. It's a celebration, Inez. You live here too. You're part of the family. Remember, I stared at her. Mateo coughed, looked down. We'll pay it back. Just, let's not do this tonight. I stepped back, looked around. The cake was already on the table. 3 tiers, frosted flowers. My card paid for every bite. Guests clapped. Someone called Callie over. She smiled, walked away like nothing happened. I moved to the side near the pantry out of the light, pulled out the recorder, tucked it behind the stack of paper cups. Let it run. That night, after the guests left, I slipped it out. Played it back in my room. Mateo's voice, Callie's, mine, saved it. Labeled it June 10th. Party paid without consent, you weren't supposed to hear that. Filed it away. Then opened the notebook and wrote, cake $214, catering 680s, decorations 146. Total, silence bought with stolen money. I clicked the pen shut. Turned off the light. Tomorrow they'd smile again. And so would I. I unlocked the front door. Alan stood on the porch in his gray suit, calm as ever. Beside him, an officer rested one hand on his belt, the other holding a clipboard. Mateo stepped forward, blinking. What is this? Alan didn't smile, just handed him the first envelope. Notice of eviction, he said. Issued this morning, signed by the rightful property trustee. Mateo froze. You mean her? He pointed at me like I wasn't in the room. Alan handed over the second envelope. Collection demand. $72,000. Signed promissory note enclosed. Due immediately. Mateo's lips parted, but no sound came. The officer passed the third. Cease and desist, Alan continued. You are not authorized to list refinance or represent this property in any legal discussion. Any attempt to do so moving forward will result in litigation. Callie appeared in the hallway, barefoot, makeup smudged. What's going on? Alan glanced her way. Everything in this house, everything belongs to her. I moved from the kitchen. Calm steps, mug in hand, no raised voice, no drama. Just steam curling up from dark coffee. Callie's mouth twisted. You're kicking us out. After everything Mateo tore into the envelopes, eyes scanning like he'd find some loophole written in invisible ink. I sipped. Didn't blink. You can't be serious, he said. Mom, this is a joke, right? You wouldn't really Alan cut in. She already has. These aren't threats. They're final. Callie's voice rose. You let us plan a party in a house you were about to evict us from. I didn't respond. The officer stepped forward. You have 30 days to vacate. That's the law. You'll receive a follow-up from the court. Until then, we suggest cooperation. Mateo turned to me, eyes glassy. You planned this. I nodded once. You smiled. You made breakfast. Another sip. Still hot? You let us think you were okay. I set the mug down on the counter. The clink echoed. I let you think what you wanted, I said. Alan gathered his papers. We're done here. He walked out. The officer followed. Callie stood still, arms wrapped around herself like she'd just noticed the cold. Mateo looked smaller than he ever had, like the boy I once carried home in a blanket teeth chattering after swim lessons. But that boy was gone. I picked up the mug again, turned toward the hallway, and walked away. Callie screamed. Not words, just raw sound. High, sharp, ragged. Mateo paced, gripped his hair, shook the envelopes like they might disappear. Mom, please. We can fix this. Let's talk. You don't need to do this. The officer stayed at the door. Neutral. Unmoved. I have a child, Callie snapped. Where will we go? You're throwing out your own blood. I stood by the stairs, one hand on the railing. Silent. You smiled in our faces, she hissed. You waited. You let us. I asked you to respect me, I said. She laughed bitter. You're cruel. The officer stepped forward. You have 72 hours. That's more than generous. You'll receive a formal notice in writing by end of day. Mateo turned to him. Can't we appeal already filed and processed? The officer said. You ignored multiple financial obligations. This is a civil enforcement. Callie's face twisted. She's lying. She planned this. She recorded us. I didn't answer. Mateo stepped toward me slower this time. Mom, don't do this. Please. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I looked at him. He looked like a man realizing he'd bet everything on a hand he didn't understand. You said I'd adjust, I said. His mouth opened. No words came. I moved past him, opened the front door, held it open. The officer nodded at me, tipped his hat to no one in particular, and stepped out. Mateo stared. Callie threw a dish towel to the ground, like that would undo anything. I closed the door. Quiet. Clean. Final. In the kitchen, the mug waited. I picked it up. Still warm. Callie slammed drawers, threw open closets, packed loud. She cursed under her breath, then over it, slammed shut the suitcase and dragged it down the hall like it owed her something. Mateo trailed behind her holding their son. Quiet, pale, eyes sunken. They didn't speak to me. She brushed past me at the door. Didn't look back. Mateo paused, adjusted the strap on the diaper bag, opened his mouth, then closed it. I stepped aside. They left. The silence that followed was the deepest sound I'd heard in months. I called Alan. The locks, I said. Let's change them. He sent someone that afternoon. By sunset, the deadbolts were new. The garage code reset. The spare key in my dresser meant something again. That night, I turned on the porch light, but left the rest of the house dark. Around 2 a.m., I saw headlights pull into the driveway. Mateo's car. He sat inside, engine off, hood reflecting the porch bulb. He didn't knock. He stayed there for hours, just a shadow slumped in the driver's seat. By morning, he was gone. I found his pillow tossed in the bushes. On the third day, I heard the door handle rattle. He still had the old key. It didn't turn. He knocked once, twice. I didn't answer. He left again. The next morning, I found a note under the mat. I didn't know how far it would go. I'm sorry. I folded it, put it in the notebook, wrote below it, too late is still too late. I brewed coffee, took a slow breath. The house didn't feel empty. It felt mine. The envelope slid through the slot, landed on the rug with a soft slap. I bent down. My name was written in Mateo's hand. Uneven letters, ink pressed hard into the paper. I carried it to the kitchen, set it beside the coffee pot, stared at it while the machine hissed and filled the room with steam. The flap wasn't sealed tight. I could have opened it with one pull. Instead, I traced the letters of my name, the same hand that once drew me Mother's Day cards, the same hand that once wrote spelling lists. I helped him practice at the table. Now that hand asked something else. I poured coffee, sat, looked at the envelope. I didn't open it. I already knew the shape of the words inside. I'm sorry. Callie left. I didn't mean it. I need to come back. The rhythm of his life, take, burn, leave, return. I sipped, let the bitterness sit on my tongue. I slid the envelope into the top drawer of the sideboard, closed it, didn't lock it, didn't need to. The apology could wait, or rot. Either way, it was his, not mine. The house hummed. The fridge clicked on. The clock above the stove ticked steady. I turned on the radio low, let voices fill the space that used to echo with his. Then I reached for my notebook. Mateo's letter arrived. Unopened, stored away. My piece doesn't need his words. I shut the cover, picked up my mug, and walked to the window where the morning light cut across the kitchen floor, steady and sharp. I walked into the bank. No appointment, no hesitation. Just my ID, my papers, and a name that still meant something on the account. The manager recognized me, offered a seat, coffee. I declined both. I moved the funds, quietly, efficiently, split what mattered into a separate account under my trust's name, labeled it clearly, no joint access, no shared signatures. Next, the will. I met Alan after lunch. We reviewed every line. He adjusted the beneficiaries, removed names that no longer belonged, added instructions for the house, the account, the notebooks. The new version was cleaner, leaner, mine. He asked, "Do you want to send a copy to anyone?" I shook my head. They'll find it when it matters. Back home, I opened the drawer in the hallway, the one no one ever touched. Lined it with a folder. Inside, trust documents, property deed, copy of will, note on top, for when you finally grow up. I closed it. Slid the drawer in. Didn't lock it. If he ever returned, not to beg, not to borrow, but to understand, he'd know where to start. I brewed coffee, cleaned the kitchen, watered the fern near the window. No more labels, no second fridge, no whispered calls behind doors that weren't theirs. Only peace now. Not loud, not bright, just steady. I carried my mug to the table, sat, listened to the hum of a house that finally felt like home. I wiped the counter clean. No sticky fingerprints. No half-eaten toast. No mugs left for me to wash. Just mine. I rinsed the carafe. Measured the grounds. Let the machine breathe and hiss and come alive. The windows stayed open. Morning air drifted in cool and sharp. Birds passed outside quiet flutters. A dog barked far off. But inside, not a sound I didn't make. I reached into the cupboard, pulled down my mug, the one Callie once shoved to the back behind the mismatched ones she brought in. Still white. Still plain. Still mine. The letters hadn't faded. Still mine. I poured slow. Let the steam rise. Carried it to the table like I had every morning before the house changed, before they tried to cut it into parts. Sat down. The chair didn't creak. I wrapped both hands around the mug. Let the heat soak into my palms. No one knocked. No one barged in. No fridge stood beside mine claiming territory. No food labeled. No coffee hoarded. No orders barked through fake smiles. Only me. Only this house returned. Only this moment earned. I sipped. Bitter. Strong. The kind I liked. The kind no one else had a say in anymore.